My name is Laura Marosi, and today I would like to talk to you about miscommunication in the workplace. First off, I'd like to congratulate this organization on being ahead of the game. Most companies are not as proactive in training management before an issue occurs. As a safety team manager, I can relate to the content of the following presentation and promise you that it will be beneficial to both you as a manager as well as your team members. Miscommunication can be defined as failure to communicate adequately. Because people have different ways of relaying and hearing information, personal conflicts, project failures, a plunge in staff morale, and high turnover can be the resulting issues of miscommunication. As a manager, you can avoid many problems simply by improving your communication in your groups or teams. Improving communication can be done by practicing active listening, discussing expectations, taking responsibility, paying attention to nonverbal cues, and being clear to the point. Active listening is key in reducing miscommunication. Active listening involves concentrating on the conversation at hand and avoiding unwanted interruptions, such as a cell phone ringing or vibrating, and others walking into your office or just walking through your meeting area. Make sure that if you're having a conversation, you focus on the person you are talking to or listening to. That way, there's no unwanted interruptions and you can focus on what they're talking about. Have you ever been talking to a person and begun planning a response before they were done speaking? This is an example of non-active listening, what we want to avoid. And because you began planning on what you're going to say before you were done speaking, you had the potential of missing vital information in the conversation. Many of our employees have a tendency to do this when speaking with management or superiors because they want to respond in an intelligent manner. To avoid this, talk to your employees about active listening to both their peers and superiors, and actively listen to your employees. The pros of active listening include concentrating on the conversation at hand and getting all of the information presented, reducing distractions, which allows the speaker to feel more focused on, and the reduction of miscommunication. The cons of active listening seem to arise when a person is talking or complaining or directing negativity to the person that is listening. If an employee actively listens when a manager is criticizing them, there is potential for them to take the negativity to more extreme levels than intended. Keep this in mind and have all of your negative conversations directly with employees behind closed doors. Next, discussing expectations. Like the example before, if we take note of our own past experiences, we're better able to understand how our employees are thinking and responding. Discussing expectations involves assessing potential risks and dealing with them immediately, which will help you to more effectively address unforeseen issues that may come up later on. Consider this. If a project is launched with multiple team members involved, everyone understands what's expected of them, right? Maybe not. Just in case, the project leader or you, the manager, can go to each team member and talk about his or her specific tasks and objectives and how they fit in with what everyone else is doing. Doing this helps prevent miscommunication and issues. The pros and cons of discussing expectations. The pros include finding and addressing unforeseen issues with communication before they occur, educating employees on their roles and impact with the team to make everyone feel valuable, and reducing the likelihood of miscommunication. The cons of discussing expectations include the potential for employees to become upset about their role on a team or project. If expectations are discussed in a group setting, it will be clear who has the most and least responsibility and impact on the project or team. To ensure that each person knows their value, expectations should be discussed in private, just in case. Taking responsibility. Miscommunication always has at least two participants, the person talking and the person listening. To avoid misunderstandings, take responsibility for making sure that the other person clearly grasps what is being asked of them. If you do this in a trusting and non-confrontational way, The other person is encouraged to take responsibility for his or her part and ask for clarity if it's needed. The pros of taking responsibility include avoiding misunderstandings and building trust and reducing miscommunication. Do you see a trend here? The cons of taking responsibility include the potential for blame placement and the potential for breaking trust. Next, we have paying attention to nonverbal cues. We don't communicate with our words alone. Every conversation comes with a host of nonverbal cues, which include your facial expressions, your body language, and other things. Occasionally, these may contradict with what you're saying, unintentionally, usually. Before addressing a staff member or leading a project conference, think carefully about your tone of voice and how you make eye contact and what your body language is saying. Try and be consistent throughout the presentation. The pros and cons of paying attention to nonverbal cues. The pros of paying attention to nonverbal cues include adding emphasis to a point, clarifying information, and reducing miscommunication. The cons include the potential for unintentional contradictions. You may mean to say something in a positive way, but your tone could say otherwise. Watch out for this. The last way to improve communication within your teams is being clear to the point. Don't cloud your instructions or requests with irrelevant details. These people don't need to know about past problems or employees that had past issues. State what you need and what you expect, and ask, does anyone have any questions? Make sure your team knows that you prefer your questions up front to avoid misinterpretation later on. Consider this. Our behavior is not always as expressive as we think it is. We often say less than we think we have. The more we know someone, the more likely miscommunication is to take place. We think that the person we're speaking to will know what we mean by our implications. If I know Sally for the past 10 years, knows everything about me, I may be more brief with her. You can cause problems this way. You're unintentionally keeping details from her that she may need to do her job correctly. Be sure you give employees the chance to do what's expected of them. The pros to being clear to the point can include clarification of information and the reduction of miscommunication. The cons of being clear to the point include implicating the wrong idea by accident and being seen as too blunt or straightforward. This is never good. All you want is to make sure people know you are being clear to the point so that they know they have the tools to do their job correctly. Problems that can stem from miscommunication. A lot of issues in our office can be linked to miscommunication. Some of them include employee conflict, organizational breakdown, poor work environment, and low morale. All things that foster an unhappy environment and increase unsatisfactory work. Effective communication is complex and it takes practice to master it. Don't expect communication to become immediately effective overnight. Each of your groups is going to have to work and implement the suggested ways to improve communication and learn what works best for each individual. It will take time, so please be patient. In conclusion, as managers, we can avoid many problems simply by improving our communication in our groups or teams. Improving communication can be done through practicing active listening, discussing expectations, taking responsibility, paying attention to nonverbal cues, and being clear to the point. Does anyone have any questions regarding this presentation or the material covered today? Thank you all very much for your time and your attention, and I hope that this presentation has been beneficial to both you as a manager and as a presenter. Have a wonderful day.